Kick and chase by Mullins. Kick and chase again by Mullins. It'll be a miracle. Oh, it is a miracle. Fafita tries to crash his way over. He does. Fafita got the ball over the line. Hunter's kick is over the sideline for a 40-20.
Yeah, g'day champions and welcome to 40-20 Sports. On this episode, we're going to have a look at the Manly Sea Eagles, the Newcastle Knights, and of course the North Queensland Cowboys there. Going to have a little look into how they're going to line up for the 2025 season for Supercoach. It's very early days, still pre-season stuff going on there, but we're going to have a bit of a dive, try and give you a bit of a heads up on who we think is potentially going to get a bit of a start this year. Couple of gun fullbacks in this one, couple of good rising stars in the CTWs as well. So we're going to dive into all of that. But first, please go and have a little look at our Instagram account. Going to have a lot of stuff coming up in there throughout the years about captaincy options. We're going to talk about our best bets throughout the year. We'll be showing all our trades as well throughout the year, how our team's shaping up. There's no Patreon shit where you've got to pay extra money for that. So that is really good. If you need information, there's more than enough information. We've got player profiles on that. So please go and have a look at that. Also, with Supercoach officially launching in the next week or two around Australia Day, I think it is. We're going to put a bit more emphasis on the prize for our league. Last year it was just a bit of a prize pack for 40-20. We're still actually chasing Jack from Do We Get a Bag about that. Please, mate, if you see this, contact us. We've got a package there for you, mate. But we're going to get onto that. First, second, and third will be our prizes for this year. The numbers over to 600 numbers, 600 to 700 people joined up last year, which was so much more than what we expected. So for a bit of reward of that, for people that were tuning in and listening, we're going to sign up for that. Please do join it. There's going to be prizes for first, second, and third. There's going to be cash involved and also a bit of a merch pack going on there. Bit of a thing with that, though, we're going to make it. You must be following us to receive those prizes. So jump in early. Jump onto us on Instagram. Please give us a follow, give us a like, all that sort of garbage. There will be no Patreons or nothing like that. No doubt we're not big enough for that sort of stuff. So everything will be free. So jump on board with that. Anyway, without any further ado, we will get stuck into it. We'll start off with the Manly Sea Eagles. Last year, they finished 7th with a 13-10 loss record. They also got a draw, funnily enough. You don't see too many of them in the modern game. Look, they found their way back into the top 8, made it to week 2 of the semis after their semi-final victory against the Dogs, which is super impressive. The end of the season was pretty good from Manly. They got a couple of troops back. Turbo was back, although he wasn't exactly firing, but he was back. As per usual, strong presence at 4 points. They had a 9-win, 3-loss record there, so that's a given with Manly. They just seem to lift and they turn into a different beast when they're at 4 points. For the signings for this year, they have gained Joey Walsh. He comes over from Rugby Union. Jazz Tavaga, he comes over from the Warriors. We've got Michael Cheekham from the Rabbitohs. Sia Takayaho, he comes from Catalans. That's a fantastic signing, I think. They're going to be a bit skinny there in the forwards. So Takayaho coming over from the Catalan Dragons, that's a good signing. Chris Patalo, he comes over from the Dogs. He'll be just a bit of depth there, no doubt. The losses, Carl Lawton, he heads off to the Cowboys. Jamie Humphries is going to the Rabbitohs. Jackson Paulo also off to the Cowboys. Aaron Woods and Brad Parker, they retire. They retired at the season end there. Ben Condon, I think he's got a bit of a contract there for Queensland Cup. I think with the Capras. Matty Lodge, this has just come out very recently that he seems to have a deal with the Dragons. So he was unsigned by anyone, but looks like the Dragons have snaffled him up on a bit of a train and trial deal. The first 5 games for the Manly Sea Eagles are their corkers. Cowboys at home, Warriors away, Raiders, Eagles, and Storm all at home. So 4 out of their 5 games are home games. Like we talked about before, 4 points. They just seem to lift. So, look, I don't usually like stacking my team full of the one team, but if you wanted to stack your team full of Manly Sea Eagles players, their attack's fantastic. So as long as they're fit and healthy, I think their players will be a decent option to be targeting around the first 5 to 6 rounds. Anyway, we'll start from the top. The hooking position, look, not a great deal going on there at hooker for Manly. They've got Lachlan Croker. He's potentially going to be their starting hooker there. 334k with a 34-point average. But look, he already averaged 58 minutes on last year. Probably not a lot of room to grow. He's got Jake Simpkin there. He came over late last year. And Gordon Chunkumtong. He's there as well. He should eat up a few minutes if given a chance. So I just think the hooker role there's not a great deal of interest there for me. Front row forward, that man we were talking about before coming over from Catalans, Sia Takayaho. He is the highest priced front row forward, if you can believe that, of any of the Manly Seagulls. Comes in at 453k, been at Catalans for the last 2 years. His stats are a little bit skew from those being in the Super League, but he did have a 58-point average back in 2022 when he was with the Roosters. So has dual, which is nice, but look, I don't know if he's going to be that big an option coming into the season, definitely to start, so I'd be leaving without him. Taniela Paseka, 441k, he's another one, 45-point average. He is just going to be a plotter, 40 to 50-point average. I probably don't see a lot of value in him. The value is with him is any draft players that find him, he seems to just go through right to the end. It doesn't matter what sort of competition you're running there with your draft teams. Taniela Paseka always seems to go through to the end. He's a decent option, I think. If Lodge leaving, he gets a bigger role, although Takayaho's coming in. 45-point average. Look, he will every single game get you 40 to 50 points. So for the draft boys, if you do not have a front row forward, moving deeper into the picks, he may be an option there, but for classics, he's a no-go. For the two RFs, Hamal Olakawatu, 665k, had a 68-point average last year, so a decent year. Only cracked the 100 mark once last year, which was pretty interesting for me. I always thought his ceiling was, like, no doubt huge. He's got huge potential, huge upside. He's running off one of the greatest halves that the game's seen so far with Cherry Evans. He's fantastic at putting him over the line, but he just sort of didn't get the height that I was sort of expecting of Olakawatu last year. I think being dropped from the Origin side may have dampened his confidence just a smidge, but look, 665k, he's up there with one of the elites for the second row forwards. The 4 out of 5 games at home, I think is fantastic. There's a lot of points coming out of that Manly side. I know everyone emphasises how well defence is, but these guys they're an attacking weapon. So Olakawatu at 665k, he could get a bit more bang for your buck with the first 6 games like we were talking about before. So I'd be looking at him pretty closely. Caleb Navale, he is 236k. He's just one that we're going to watch for the moment. Put him in your little black book. 34-point average on just the 2 games last year. He's a Fijian international. He's got a fresh 3-year contract. I think they'll find him as the future 13 for the club. So look, just one to keep your eye on. He's still very young. He's got a huge motor. Looked really good in the Fijian international games. So if there's an injury there to Jakey Turbo, he could get a decent amount of minutes there, and I'll be looking at him. Halfback, Daly Cherry Evans, 646k with a 66-point average on last year. His 8th straight season where he broke the 60 mark. So consistency's pretty good for Ches. First 5 games, very interesting. Last year against the opponents that he will be playing in the first 5 games for this year, he had an average of 74 points, which is a fantastic uptick. Said it again, we'll continue to say it. 4 out of 5 games at 4 points where they seem to lift. I know it's the start of the season, but I really think Daly Cherry Evans, if you're worried about Nico Hines' confidence, worried about Nathan Cleary having a bit of a tough draw, which the Panthers do. It's extremely tough. No games at Bluebet. They're all going to be at CommBank, their home games this year. Look, if you think that there's a way that you can make money off Daly Cherry Evans to move in to the likes of a Nathan Cleary or Nico Hines just to see how they go in their first couple of games, I think it's a decent option. One I won't be doing personally. I'll just be sticking with Nathan there, but I can see the appeal of nearly 200k less going with Ches there for the first opening couple of games. 5'8", Luke Brooks, 529k. Decent option to start last year, I thought. Although this year, he's probably reached his ceiling, I think. A 54-point average is probably what he'll end up on again. I can't see him breaking the mould there any different. Look, he was a decent buy last year, but he was around 400k then. He was 130k cheaper than he was. So I wouldn't be touching Lukey Brooks there. He'll just be a plotter there between the 50-60 mark, I think he'll average. So I'd be steering clear there. CTWs, our main man there, we've got Ruben Garrick at 680k, 69-point average on last season. Haven't seen him in a great deal of teams when Supercoach first launched for the subscribers there, but since then he's started to make a bit more noise. I think people are looking into his season a little bit more closely. like we said, the 6 weeks, great opening draw. Look, I think people are getting scared off him because he's in the centres now. Maybe people think he's not as effective as he is on the wing, which is probably true. His base stats are a little bit down, but look, they're still fantastic. On last year, he had 3 injury-affected or HIA-affected games where he played no more than 25 minutes. So if we take those out, he had a 79-point average, which is up there with the best of them. Still punched out 8 games with 90-plus points. So, look, I think Turbo firing is another one. Turbo seems to be quite fit. He could get 20 to 30 points in goal kicking alone if they towel some teams up like he has done in the past. Starts the cheapest he started in 4 years. So, look, at that price, $680K for him, I think he's a bargain. The value's there. The upside's there, the consistency's there, which is the main thing, and the draw's there. So I think Ruben Garrick, look, I think his ownership should be a lot higher than what it is. And I think it will be come the next 2 or 3 rounds if people start clicking on, oh no, wait, the draw's easy, Ruben Garrick's a gun. I'd be starting with him every day of the week. Lehigh Hopewate, he's another option there. I just think we need to see what happens with teams. There's probably a couple of guys that may be ahead of him, even though he had a fantastic season. Tommy Talau will be fighting for a wing spot there. That back line of Talatau Kula, Garrick, Saab, I think those guys are probably ahead of Hopewate. It'll just be a toss-up between him and Tommy Talau who gets that left wing spot. So if he does get it, I can see the appeal of it. It's outside bloody Turbo, who right to left passing is phenomenal. So we'll keep an eye on him. Jason Saab, 528K, 54-point average. Look, I probably wouldn't even interest him, apart from the fact that their run is so good at the start. He is the epitome of a roller coaster for Supercoaches. Had 2 games over the 100 mark, but also had 4 games under 30 last year. So rocks and diamonds, eat your bloody heart out. It's just the draw. The draw at the start of the season. If he's fit is another thing as well. He had a pretty injury-rattled year last year. So Jason Saab, if you were a gambling man, a heavy gambling man, at that may be a bit of an option for you. The fullback there, Tommy Trbojevic, the one and only, 875K, 89-point average on last season. Head and shoulders the best player at Manly and the best attacking option that they have got. Punters would have seen how fit he was in the Pacific Championship last year. He did get a slot in there at the centre's position where he brained it. Got into open field, open strides. There was no hampering him. Looked back to his best, to be honest. So he can keep fit in the preseason. He should be in everyone's team in their first choice, Tommy Trbojevic. He's head and shoulders the best fullback in the game when it comes to Supercoach anyway. 6 out of his 18 games, he went 100 points plus, and on 2 occasions, he broke through the 150 mark. So that the ceiling is there. I think 170 was his highest score last year. So especially with the flexi position this year, being able to vice captain 2 players in that fullback position, I just think every week you could nearly have a VC or a captaincy role there on Tommy Trbojevic. Averaged 101 points at 4 Pines last year. So again, the start of the draw, that 4 Pines draw. He'll be my number 1 fullback without a doubt. I just think don't try and outthink the room with this. The stats are phenomenal when Tommy Trbojevic is healthy. He seems to be healthy, so I'd be running with him. Look, for their wrap, I've got Manly sitting anywhere between 4th and 7th. I think a lot of it depends on how fit Turbo stays. I think if Turbo is fit, they could break the top 4. But I do think the depth in Talatau Kula and Lehigh Hopewate, if something is to happen to Turbo again, I think they've got the depth to still make the 8. I think they'll have a much better year than last year. Fingers crossed, Turbo stays there. We probably say this every single year. If Turbo's fit, they should be firing. Yeah, look, the only issue with them is their forward pack. They've signed Takeaho. They've lost Matthew Lodge, who was the starting front rower for them, and I thought quite good towards the back end of the season there last year. So I just think they're a superstar front rower away from being a premiership contender. But again, they'll be pretty handy coming into the semi-finals, I believe. Next one here, we'll move on to my boys, the Newcastle Knights. They finished 8th spot last year with 12 wins, 12 losses, only just scraped into the 8 with a round 27 win over the Dolphins at McDonald Jones home there. Look, the semi-final against the Cowboys in Townsville, I think, highlighted exactly what is wrong with the Knights. They just need some blokes to help Kalen Ponga. He was a one-man band for most of the season. When he was out, they seemed to struggle a bit more, although they have found some fantastic fullbacks there now. Look, they just need to get the man some help, basically. Even when he doesn't have the ball, it seems like the opposition is crunching down on Kalen Ponga, and that just stunts their attack. Good ball. He seems to be the only option that is doing anything. So it helps with Supercoach, but as a actual football-friendly team, they're pretty tough to watch, especially when they're your team and you're their fan. So look, not awesome reading for their attacking options as well. They had the second worst attack behind the West Tigers, who got the spoon last year, so they really need to address some of that in the off-season. The signings for the Newcastle Knights, they have gained Francis Manu-Lelua from the Pandas. He's a second rower there, doing good things in New South Wales Cup. Tajanan comes over from the Queensland Reds. Tyrone Thompson, they picked him up from the Chiefs from the Rugby New Zealand. James Schiller comes up from the Raiders. Sateni Takamo, he comes from the Sharks. And Matty Arthur, little hooker there, from the Eels. The losses there, they've lost Miles Martin to the Raiders. David Armstrong, who had a fantastic breakout year there while Ponga was out. He's off to the Lee Leopards. Daniel Safidi, he heads up to the Dolphins. Anare Tuwala is off to the Dogs. And Tom Jenkins, they have released. Christian Mapapalangi, they have also released him as well. Starting round is pretty good. There's a tricky little round 4 bye in there for Supercoaches, so you'll have to keep a bit of an eye on that. But Tigers away, Dolphins at home, Titans away, Bulldogs away, Tigers at home. So, look, there's more away games than home games, which is a bit difficult for them, but the teams are very Supercoach-friendly teams. You've probably got the Dogs, which is the big one there. They're quite good defensively, but Tigers, Dolphins, Titans, back into the Tigers there. We don't 100% know what the Tigers are going to bring up. I still think they're going to be a better team than they were last year, but I still think they will struggle to make the 8. So it could be a lot of points on option there for some of these boys. We'll get stuck into there. Supercoach boys. Jaden Brayley, 414k. He had a 42-point average on last year. Look, reason to think he is underpriced if he can get the full 80 minutes. That's a massive if. I don't think he will. I think Phoenix Crossland there will probably pinch into some of his minutes. He'll get the 14 jersey. If not, Phoenix Crossland may even play more minutes than Jaden Brayley. I just don't see... They've got a lot of options there now at hooker with Matty Arthur coming over. I was a bit surprised to see that they didn't let Jalen Brayley go, considering Phoenix Crossland got the New Zealand jersey there for the Pacific Championship. Did quite well in it. You know, he punches out his numbers in attack. But yeah, Jaden Brayley is probably the best option there if you were to go a hooker from the Knights, but I wouldn't advise that. 414k. Had a 50-point average when he got 70 more minutes, but again, I don't think he's going to get that this year. I think it'll be pretty evenly pressed out with Phoenix Crossland, and they do have Matt Arthur coming in, who had a couple of games there for the Eels. Looks like a likely contender to get some minutes as well. Front row forwards, look, it's pretty dire for the Knights there. Supercoach-wise, no front rower going over the 50-point average mark there, so I think they're all in a void. You've got Leo Thompson and Safidi there. They're their starting front rowers. Just don't think anything's going to change with their minutes. Daniel Safidi, he's gone for the year, so I don't know who is going to sort of step up to the plate there. There's some blokes on the bench like Matty Croker, Hetherington. They could get some more minutes, but there is a guy that we're going to tell you about, Cody Hopgood, 198k, was the Knights' best player in SG Ball under 19s. Still only 18 years old. Will be 19 around mid-year sort of thing. But look, I can't see him getting a game. Not at the start of the season anyway. I think he's still probably a bit too young for that. He got a couple of games in Jersey Flegg last year for the 21s. He's the future of the club, though. They've wrapped him up until 2028, which is a massive contract for him. He's 6'5" and 106 kilos already at 18 years old. So big future for Cody Hopwood, one to keep an eye on, bottom dollar, but I would struggle to see him getting a run. There would need to be significant injuries for that to happen. For the 2RF, we're going to have a look at Dylan Lucas, 616k with a 63-point average. If he doesn't get a starting spot in the second row for the Knights there. I don't know what they're doing. Look, he's an absolute gun. Towards the back end of the year, I think he proved that he's probably the best position for him and for the Knights is him starting at second row. Had a fair few games where he came into centre for Bradman Best when he was injured, but I wouldn't be moving him out of that second row spot. He's a great line runner. Bust his ass. He's got a good offload, try-scoring ability as well. Scored a handful of tries last year. So just every time he touches the ball, he looks like a bit of a different option there out on that right-hand edge, which they need. They need a bit more of attacking flair. Played 20 games last year, but only had 12 where he was the starting second rower. So the other games he was coming off the bench or started in the centres there. In those 12 games, he had a 68-point average, so a slight uptick there. But it's the fact that he's dual CTW for me that really puts him as an outstanding option for Supercoaches. I think if you just want a guy to punch out 60s in your CTWs, I think he's going to do that. His base is really good. His base is up near 50 points a game. So for him to be doing that at 80 minutes, I think if you can guarantee yourself 50 points plus upside with this guy, I have a serious consideration to put him in my CTWs. Also, the origin period for the Newcastle Knights is fantastic. They play all the bye coverage rounds, which is really good. I think round 19 bye, they don't play. But everything else, they cover that. Dylan Lucas could be a fantastic option there. Kai Pearce-Paul, 525k, 53-point average there. Look, I thought he was quite disappointing last year. He come over as this all superhuman, 6'6", 6'7" kind of guy that was just a rangy back rower that scored tries for fun over there in the Super League. As we know, NRL, different kettle of fish, so didn't really have the attacking upside, but his base was quite good. His base was in the early 40s still. I just don't know how they're going to fit Kai Pearce-Paul, Dylan Lucas and Frizzell into that back row. There's been rumours that Frizzell may play through the middle, but again, I'm not too sure on that. I think Kai Pearce-Paul is a really good option coming off the bench because I think he is actually a better centre than what Dylan Lucas is. So if there's an injury in their back line, I'd be more inclined to put Kai Pearce-Paul through the centres there. But anyway, O'Brien's got a bit of a asphyxiation with Dylan Lucas going into the centres there when there seems to be an injury. Tyrone Thompson, 198k, twin brother of Leo Thompson. I think the lack of chat around him is pretty crazy. The Knights have lost DSAF there, Daniel Safidi. I think they're going to be skinny in the middle. They're going to lose Leo at season ends. I think this bloke, there needs to be a bit more chat around him. Played for the Chiefs in the Super Rugby, had 22 appearances there and had 3 appearances for the Maori All-Stars team. Look, he's no slouch. He apparently, all word was that the Chiefs were trying to keep him through this season, but he's taken a bit of a switch, obviously followed his brother's lead, taken a bit of a switch over to rugby league. I think the Knights have got a decent buy here. I haven't got a great grasp on the rugby union side of things, but the highlights that I've watched there, he looks like a bit of the go-to man when they're trying to do a crash play. If the Knights can implement him into doing that into regular season NRL is another thing, and depending on the vigours of defence and coming back 10 metres, hitting up 10 metres, that was all sort of stuff. How that will play over will be a bit of a test for him. No doubt he'll start in New South Wales Cup, I think, but don't be surprised if you see this guy coming in to the starting 17 throughout the mid-season way, I believe. Halfback, look, shit, your guess is as good as mine. I wouldn't be touching any halves. There's a bit of talk about Cogger getting a bit of a sniff there, but there's that many halves and there's that many changes in the halves for the Knights. I don't see how this year is going to be any different if they don't start performing well. Even when they were performing well, they were still changing out their halves for some reason. O'Brien has a bit of a passion for that. So, look, there's Jacko Hastings there. He looks like he's going to start the season in New South Wales Cup. They had him in lock. Exact same thing that the Tigers did before they got rid of him. I think they'll be shopping him around at season end, so I wouldn't be touching him. Jack Cogger at $401,000. The price tag is decent, but I think he lacks upside. I think he lacks consistency. I think he lacks a starting role, to be honest. I can see a world where Jack Cogger probably goes out the back door and they look for other options if they do start quite average. Phoenix Trosson, he's another one there, but I think he's set for the number 14 jersey like we talked about before. 5'8" again, just same thing. Steer clear. you've got Tyson Gamble and Will Price fighting it out there, but again, Cogger could come into that 5'8 position. Just the turnstile that is the Newcastle Knights halves, I wouldn't be going anywhere near it. Tyson Gamble is set to start, but again, Will Price has a bit more of an attacking upside, I believe. So again, it's just, you have no idea what's going to happen there at the Knights, so don't take your gamble with it. For the CTWs, we've got Dane Gagai. He is 694k with a 71-point average. Father Time has stopped his clock on Dane Gags. The last 2 years, he has averaged 70-plus points at season end. So he's been a revelation there at the Knights there. He's been very consistent with his games. For his age, he just keeps pumping out 70-plus points. So it's good to see. He had 3 scores over the 100 mark, although did lack a little bit of consistency, not being able to crack the 60-point mark on 9 out of 21 occasions, although he does seem to have a bit of a ceiling there with the 3 100-point games. Decent option, but again, you just want to see how the Knights are rolling. Be very surprised if he played Origin this year, so he could be fantastic coverage for that. Fletcher Sharp at 636k has dual CTW and fullback. Not that that's a big thing. I would not be sticking him in my fullback position. He will be in my CTWs if I was looking at him. When he did play on the wing over the last 7 games, when he switched there from fullback, he had a 72-point average. So look, a decent option. The stats look good. He broke the 100 mark on 2 occasions there. Scored 8 tries in 7 games. A lot of talk for the Knights is, they go left, Ponga goes left. He loves to go out that side, to Greg Marzu and all that. But there's no coincidence that the right-hand side is what Fletcher Sharp was on. Exact same side as what Dom Young the year before, broke the club record for tries scored in a season. Did that in 2023, sorry. The right-hand side, I don't think gets enough attention from people and from social media as what the left-hand side does. Fletcher Sharp, 7 games, 8 tries. Dom Young broke the record there. I think the right-hand side could be the dominant side there for the Newcastle Knights. And if Fletcher Sharp lands on that side, he's got speed, he's evasive, he's a very good finisher. 636k, he's a bit of a risk, but again, I'd be looking at him if he continues those sort of numbers for the bye period. Like I said, the Knights got a very handy draw around there, so please keep an eye on Fletcher Sharp. Not one I would start with, but definitely one I'll be keeping an eye on. The other man on that left-hand side we'll talk about is Greg Marzu. 513k with a 52-point average last year. Surely it doesn't get any less than a 52-point average there for Gregory Marzu. What people are saying is a horror season for him. He still averaged 52 points, and basically it was all in base. The attacking stats just didn't come. A good portion of that was Ponga having the middle of the season there off, missed a chunk of games. He'll benefit from him being fit, obviously. I think if the Knights can get a combination in the halves as well, if they just stick to something, stays in the halves combination, he may get a bit more quality ball out on that left-hand edge. We all know he's a fantastic tackle buster, offload, massive work rate coming out of their own end. A lot of things to do with it as well. Towards the back end of the year, I noticed watching a lot of games of the Knights, they seemed to have him figured out. They would kick down deep into his half, and then he was met with a decent line. They never gave him the hit up off the first or second tackle, which is where he does a lot more damage, getting a bit of their line set. Even though they do that, he seems to be able to bust the tackles and get the offloads from that. So, one to watch if he starts average again, you can move him on. But at 513k, he's really, really good value, I think. For the fullback there, the one and only Kalen Ponga, 790k, 80-point average, played just the 15 games there for the Knights due to that foot injury. The man, like we said before, he's the only real attacking option that the Knights have, so they have got to give him the pill in good ball. That is why he gets so many good Supercoach points, not to mention the fact that he's an absolute freak and a gun. 15 games there last year. Out of those 15 games, he had 5 games with 100-plus scores, and another 2 in the 90s. So basically, on last year, you had a 50-50 chance of Kalen Ponga going 90+. Started the year a little bit slow in his first 2 or 3 games, but showed people what he's made of after that. He was fantastic. Draw to start the year is very handy, like we said. He's goal kicking, a bit tricky around the round 4 bye. I've seen a couple of people talking about, in the round 4 bye, we'll probably sell him and then move him on to someone, but I don't think that's an option. I think if you're going to start with him, you keep him for the rest of the season until an injury occurs, or potentially till the origin period occurs, because I think he'll be gunning for that fullback spot over Reece Walsh there. So, look, we're talking about the first 5-6 rounds, but they play relatively easy positions all the way up until round 12 when they face the Panthers away. So, decent option. Look, for the Knights there, we'll have a bit of a look at them. I think anywhere between 8th and 11th. They need to get their halves in order. They need to get their halves in order at the start of the season, run them through the preseason challenge, then let them just run out in the season. Even if they're not winning games in the first 5-6 games, just let the halves combination do their thing, get used to each other, and give Ponga some decent ball. At the end of the day, that's all they need to do. They need to create space for Ponga. Look, they need another option, though. They need to find someone. I don't think Will Price will get the starting 5'8" role there at the Newcastle Knights. I think they'll run with Gamble, but Price, from the limited games that I've seen of him, he seems to be another option in attack, and I think they really, really need that. It's the most evident thing was the Cowboys in the semi-final. Ponga was everywhere, doing everything, and he was just absolutely shagged at the end of the game and bombed that try. But anyway, finished the year off with a bit of a full head of steam, and they did that last year, the year before, so in 2023. They need to get their season right at the start of the season. So that's my wrap on the boys there from the Newcastle Knights. We will now move on to the North Queensland Cowboys. They finished 5th last year. Great year from the Cowboys. 15 wins, 9 losses. They were one of the most exciting attacking options there for the year. Unfortunately, it was their defence that let them down. They had the 3rd best attack in the competition, but finished with the worst defence out of anyone in the top 8 there. So really disappointing there from the Cowboys. Toddy Payton went up there with the mindset of defence. And the first year he was there, they just brained it in defence. That is all they were about. It seems they have flipped. They are just an out-and-out attacking option. They've got strike weapons everywhere throughout the park, but they just need to sort out their defence. If they do that, I think they can sneak into the top 5 maybe, but I think at best they'll probably get 5th. So, yeah. The signings there for the Cowboys, Carl Lawton comes up from the Seagulls. Kai O'Donnell, keep an eye on him. He comes over from the Lee Leopards in Super League. Jackson Paolo, they picked him up, from the Seagulls. Johnny Bateman from the West Tigers as well. We'll talk about him a bit later. For the losses, Fine Fuiaki, he heads off to the Dolphins. Chad Townsend, he's going down to the Roosters. Jake Granville released. Kyle Felt to St Helens. Valentine Holmes, he has gone off to the Dragons. Jermaine Tanua-Brown, he is retired. Puavasa, he is off to the Seagulls. And they have also lost, we'll add into this, Chester and Hillam Lukey have gone for the season with ACL injuries. Unfortunate for them. Huge implications there for Supercoach there with that starting second rower spot coming up for grabs now. Their start of the season is a bit of a mixed bag. They've got Manly away, the Sharks at home, Broncos away, Raiders at home, then the Panthers away. So, look, it's not great. It's not even good, to be honest. Manly away at 4 points, that'll be tough. Sharks at home, I think the Sharks will start well. Broncos away, the Broncos will be a different beast this year. Raiders, they get them at home, could rack up some points there, and the Panthers away. Always a tricky one there with the Panthers. Anyway, we'll have a look at how their team line should look. For the hooker role there, Reece Robson, 590k, 60-point average last year, started the year red hot. First 6 rounds, he had a 74-point average. He was the number 1 hooker going into the first 6 rounds, so really good from him. From there on out, it was a fair bit of regression there from Reece Robson. Finished the last 8 rounds with a 50-point average. Look, not overly appealing Supercoach game for him. He tackles his ass off. He runs here and there and has a try assist in him sporadically throughout the season. But look, there's no doubting he's probably one of the best dummy halves in the competition at the moment. Got the New South Wales Blues jersey, made that his own. But as far as Supercoach goes, I think he'll just stick between 50, 60 points. He seemed to do that throughout the season. Although he did start really well, he did come back to the field. So the appeal there for Robson, as with some of the other hookers that we'll talk about throughout the preseason, a lot of people seem to be going to rookies. Mamazelis, Mozart, Sandon Smith, those type of guys. If you want a bit of reliability there, I think if you're hoping for just 50, 60 points a game, bit unsure of going the cheapy option there. I think Robson, decent option. If you just wanted to coast, no real upside, but I do think there is a world where you could have a Robson in your side, and then whichever one of these cheapies seems to perform in the first 2 rounds, jump onto them. That's just an option, not one I'll be going with, but that is an option for people out there who have a bit of spare cash in their hooking position that want to, don't really trust the process of the 2 cheapies there and a bit worried about there. Front row forward, again, with this team, options are pretty skinny for the Cowboys there. No real quality options there at front row forward. They've got Taumalolo. Talks were he will be unavailable, but I did hear something today. This is the 18th of the 1st for the date there. Maybe right for round 1, so keep an eye on him. They've got Cohen Hess coming back. He missed the entirety of last season, did his ACL in the trials. 327k he starts. He is dual 2RF front row forward, so decent option if he does get the starting role, if you're looking for a cheapie there. Sam McIntyre, 396k, could be some minutes up for grabs, but again, no real upside there. He's just a meat and potatoes, kind of guy. Wouldn't expect too much out of him. Second row forward, Jeremiah Nanai, 619k with a 63-point average on last year. Base is a bit low for me. I don't think it's high enough for what we expect for an 80-minute second row forward, It's sitting at around 38 points a game, that base. So I don't like Jeremiah Nanai. He has a decent average, but also went 50 in 8 out of his 22 games, went below 50 in 8 of the 22 games there. So it's not pretty viewing for Jerome. Far out, I've had a shocker on him. 38 points base, sub 50 in 8 games. There you go, got it out in the end. It's just a guy, if I had 600k that I was paying for a second row forward, I'd much rather go Preston. Another guy here that we'll talk about next, I think he's better value than a Jeremiah Nanai. A lot of people like him because he does have attacking tries in him, but again, a lot of them are from kicks. So for 600k, I want a guy with a bit more consistency and a little bit more upside than Jeremiah Nanai. So I'd be avoiding him. Ruben Cotter, he was a decent option last year, but we did get him in front row forward. I think he's an avoid this year. I know he's a fantastic player, but just don't go there. Again, awkwardly priced, and the average will just sit around that 50 to 60 point mark. Johnny Bateman is an interesting one. He is the one that I think is a bit more value than Jeremiah Nanai. He's sitting at 522k with a 53-point average. Wasn't overly interested in him until the news of Helam Lukey going down with the season injuring knee injury there. The good thing about Bateman, he comes in 100k cheaper than what he started last year. There's a bit of a reason for that. The last 2 seasons have been pretty underwhelming there for the Tigers, but I think if he grabs that left-hand edge, he could be a decent option. One appealing thing that is going his way, Johnny Bateman, is he does have a base average of 45. So he averaged 53 for the season, and his base average is 45. 3 games there out of the 12, he didn't get the 80 minutes. He was sitting around, I think he averaged about 40 minutes in those 3 games, coming off injuries and not getting a starting role. He played lock one of the games, I think, as well, where he didn't get the 80 minute. So if he gets an 80-minute edge roll with a season base of 45, last year his base, when he was playing 80-minute games each day, week in, week out, he had a 53-point average. So if you can look back on Johnny Bateman's record, he does have a decent base. I think the upside could be there. He's going to an attacking side. The Tigers, we all knew that there wasn't going to be as many attacking options there for him. So going to a side that loves attacking, if he can keep his base up around 45 to 50, I think there's going to be attacking opportunities there for Johnny Bateman. Just have to see how his minute plays out. They do have a lot of good forwards coming through. Kai O'Donnell, he is one that I think everyone should have a little bit of notice on their black book about him. He's come over from Lee Leopards. Don't have anything about him moving his way into the starting 17, but still keep an eye on him. But yeah, Johnny Bateman could be decent value at 522k. For the halfback that we've got Jake Clifford. He finished the year as the starting halfback for the Cowboys. I've got him as hot property to probably get that position again for this year. Bit of an absence in preseason at the start of the season, although it has come out that he had a bit of a surgery on a hernia and he will be in no way, shape or form unfit for duties for round 1. So Jakey Clifford he'll probably get the starting position, but I don't think he's much of an option there at halfback. Tom Duffy, keep him in your black book. Bottom dollar, 198k. Since Clifford's gone for this hernia surgery, it seems as though Matt Duffy has slotted into that spot there. He's training at halfback there for the preseason at the moment. Numbers for Queensland Cup. 22 games there for Northern Pride. They're really, really good. Fantastic stuff. He had 22 games there, 5 tries, 33 try assists, 20 line break assists, and 10 forced dropouts in 22 games. Awesome stats. I know that there's a massive difference in between Queensland Rugby League Cup and the NRL, but it's good viewing. His tackle efficiency was 90%, so that's very impressive for a half to have as well. If he gets a starting position there, I think he's going to be a fantastic cash cow for us. Keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on what happens throughout the preseason. Like I said, I think Jake Clifford has a bit of a monopoly there on that halfback role, but if Tom Duffy gets a shot at any stage in the 2025 season, I think he's going to solidify that spot and he could be a gun. For the 5'8 spot there, Tommy Dearden, 597k, 61-point average on last year. Look, going off his trajectory and his potential, I think he could be an absolute superstar. Not just in Supercoach, but within rugby league as well. The efforts he was putting in the Kangaroos Pacific Championship Tour, he's got to start with Origin now. Look, I think this year will be a very telling year for Tommy Dearden. I think he's going to look to put a lot of pressure on Cam Munster for that number 6 jersey. I think he's a fantastic option for 6. He's got a great running game. His passing game's good. Never dies wondering on a play. He's always competing there. I think he's ready to try and cement a spot there for the Queensland side and the Australia side. Supercoach hasn't hit the heights yet. Didn't get a score over 100 last year, but he did share a lot of half combination there with Chatty Townsend. Now, he's gone to the Roosters this year, opened up him pairing with Clifford. So he's obviously going to be a bit more of the dominant half there, I think, if Clifford comes in or if Tom Duffy does get a start there. I think Tommy Dearden this year will be the dominant half, will be for most of the year as well. Since he did have that position there with Clifford, he had 3 games at the end of the year. He had a 74-point average. So keep an eye on his involvement. Keep an eye on him. I think he'll be a decent value at not 597k. I think his stocks will rise, so keep an option on him. CTWs for them with no Holmes and no Felt. There's a bit of an option there for some rookies to come in. I'm a bit unsure if they get a starting spot there. I think there's some other guys there that probably get ahead of them, but they are juicy to see there. Zach Labour, 389k. He had a spot in the centres last year before going down for the year with an ACL injury, I believe it was. Had 4 games there. Did have a 50-point average in the centre spot. So he comes in at a discount at 389k, so he is one to watch. The other one is Jackson Purdue, 257k. He is actually a fullback, but got some starts there at centre, so he is centre wing only. Looked at a bit of a thing there for the preseason. He was rocking the number 3 jersey, and in an opposed session, he was in the centres as well. So although he did get 8 games last year, he only averaged 36 minutes. So a lot of games he was coming off the bench, getting 7, 8 minutes, a couple of games there. Did have the 3 games where he did get a full game in with an average of 56 points. So that's a pretty good uptick on 257k. Just keep an eye on him. Another one there, Robert Derby, all but bottom dollar. I'm unsure if he gets a position. He's an excitement machine, scores tries for fun. But they do have Braden Burns and Semi Valemay there, I think, is probably ahead of him. Fullback spot, Scotty Drinkwater, 770k, a 78-point average on last year. He's all but proven that he is a Supercoach fullback gun. We talk about the likes of Ponga, Latrell, Turbo, Teddy. I think Drinky's in there now. I think he's had enough games where he has got the 75-point average for the season. Gets 100-point games for fun, really. 7 out of the 24 games last year, he broke the 100 mark, which is an awesome effort. Finished the year when Chad Townsend was out of the side with a 92-point average. So like we talked about Tom Dearden being dominant, I think Scotty Drinkwater, he'll probably get a lot more ball with the halves combinations going this year. Like I said, he's super, super tricky to try and contain in attack for the opposition. Cracked 2-100 in those last 3 games. His forced dropout ability is fantastic. His try assists, his try scoring, line break assists, you name it, he gets it. Could take his game to the next level this year and should get the goal kicking. That's the big one there for him, for the uptick. Drinkwater without the departure for Chad Townsend, could get a bit of an uptick there from the 78-point average, just with goal kicking alone, let alone getting more ball. Also played every game of the year last year. I think he'll be an option going into the origin periods, and you could potentially start the year with him. I think he's a great buy. Scotty Drinkwater. Cowboys, I've got them 7th to 9th. Still going to be a force with their attacking abilities, although their defense, they've really, really got to shore that up. They lose a fair bit of experience, and look, they're going to have to rely on a few younger guys and guys that were in Queensland Cup last year. Look, who they have replaced them with, these outside backs, no doubt their attacking prowess is phenomenal. We know they've got that. They've got the upside. It's just a bit more of a question mark about the defense on them. So, yeah. Again, Toddy Payton, he got in there, the Cowboys at the start when he got in there, and he fixed their defense. He really needs to do that. I think their attack is going to sort itself out. They're very, very quick side. Awesome attacking ability. They just need to sort their defense out, and I think they'll be right, and they'll slide into the 8. Righto, legends, that is about all we have time for us. Again, please go and follow us on Instagram. We've got player profiles going up every week there as we speak. They're going in. Again, the competition, when it kicks off around Australia Day, we're going to have a bit more on our league and our competition prizes. To get those competition prizes, you will have to be following us on Instagram. So please jump on there. All the good gear's in there. Take care, legends. Can't wait to see you next week. Take care.